I don't even know what we call ourselves. We're not carpenters. We almost identify more as like just artists. Like our slogan is actually, we make art, not furniture.
All right, so we have our friend Colin here. Before we get into that, hit subscribe, press the like button, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and whatever other podcast apps people are listening to. Apparently there's a whole bunch I don't know about. But we got Colin here, and Gilmar, obviously. But Colin's from Paramount Woodworking Company.
Yeah,
That's
Paramount Wood Co. Yep.
But you made it really easy to schedule this with you, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, happy to be here. It's a small world. The fact that you're friends with Dale, it seems like everybody's friends with Dale, but yeah, Dale's joined the team. We're having fun.
So, how long have you been Paramount as a company?
Well, probably the right answer would be February 2020, a month before lockdown. Although it didn't start as just custom furniture. Started totally by accident. You know, before COVID, when we were getting close to lockdown and everybody was sort of, you know, freaking out, thinking the worst was going to happen. If you remember those couple months, I was really bored. I had recently, you know, retired from my past career, and I was always sort of woodworking just for fun and messing around in my garage. My dad had a little wood shop in his garage. My grandfather had one in his garage. My great grandfather. We were all just hobbyists. We were all just, you know, wanted to be savvy enough to be able to do things for ourselves. And so I was living in Doylestown Borough, and I had a little wood shop set up in my garage, and was just kind of tinkering, making stuff for myself, having fun. And sometime in January of 2020, my dad gives me a call. Who he likes buying and selling real estate, and he had recently sold a piece of property in Percy to an attorney out of Philadelphia, and he said, you know, Colin, I was just talking with the new homeowner. He heard that he had seen, I forget how it actually came up, but he had seen some of the work that I had done just for myself, and he was interested, and he wants you to make him a bar for, you know, like NFL Sundays with his boys. And I told him, you know, speaking as my father, you know, he said, I told him that you don't really do that for a living. You just kind of do it for fun. I'm not sure if, you know, he'll do it for you, but you can ask him. And it was right at the time where everything was shutting down. Everything was slowing down right before, I think it was like, what, first or second week of March, everything like shut down. Yeah. And I was just bored. And I went over there, and I was like, yeah, I'll talk to him. You know, maybe this is something, you know, a little hustle and, you know, a little project here and fun. And I was so wrong. I mean, it turned into a whole thing, but it was like, I went over there, I looked at it. I mean, first of all, it was like a sweet property, super cool farm. The place where he wanted to put it was this old metalsmith shop. The problem was, it was like as good as outdoors. I mean, there were holes in the walls. It was like, I mean, the place got to be around 150 years old. It's super old. And you know, borderline falling apart. But I saw he had some vision. He was willing to spend a little bit of money. What he was describing to me, you know, he wanted this live edge bar with a keg and you know, really doing it up proper. But he just wanted a bar. And I said, you know, it's a cool idea. And to be honest with you, I'd love to do it for you. I think it'd be a fun project. But if you put, you know, what we're talking about in the space, give it, you know, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, it's going to be destroyed, because this is as good as just sitting outside. Just
from the moisture. Yeah,
the moisture, the weather. I mean, you know, it was like the kind of place where if it rained a lot, there'd probably be, you know, puddles in the floor. So I said, you know, just by chance, I have my general contractor's license. I could renovate this whole place for you, and you know, we could do whatever kind of bar you want. Truth of the matter was, is this close enough, by the way?
No, just bring it up a lot more.
All right. I think it's been like
it's slowly falling.
I guess my skill set here ran out. Sagged, but I think we're good now. Yeah. So I said, you know, I've got my general contractor's license. I can just renovate this place for you. And the truth of the matter was, I didn't have my general contractor's license, but I knew how to get it, and I knew I could do it pretty quickly, and I had some history in it.
That's like when you ask somebody, be like, "Oh, did you go get the 2x4s?" And you're like, "Yeah, I got them, but they're still at the store."
Yeah.
it's like I have that just in the future. I have it, so technically it's mine.
It's not on me yet.
Yeah.
I will have it very soon. So
you like coughed. You're like, I have them. I have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's legit.
So my dad does the renovation. So I wouldn't have done it if I didn't know all of his, vetted subcontractors of decades. Like I know them all by first name basis. It's not like he bids out projects like these are his guys. Yeah. So I knew that, that part of it was going to be easy. And it was just about management. And I was kind of playing with the idea, like, do I get into general contracting before that? And I just saw this as an opportunity to do it. And so I said, yeah, I've got my general contractor's license. I could do that. So in the 3 weeks that it took to, get all the subs over there, bid it out, figure out where we were at for the budget, present it to the client. In that 3 weeks, I did all these expedited courses on getting my general contractor's license, setting up a corporation online, setting up basically what at the time was Custom by Junction, which Junction, my full name is John Colin Thompson, so JCT, like a road junction.
Okay.
It was actually my old gamer tag, like Fred Junction was my old gamer tag. That's where it like originated. And we were going to do some custom work, so that's where it came from. And so we bid the job. It ended up being, $120,000 project, and I got it. And all my licenses and approvals and everything came through 2 days before he wrote the check and signed the contract.
Damn.
So it was very lucky.
So you got the paperwork so that you could go to the bank to open the checking account to put the check in, because otherwise, like no numbers, like you're not set up.
When I tell you, I walked into the bank with my with my documents of formation for the business to open up a bank account and the check for my first job, all at the same time. And the bank manager was like, we usually don't see this where a customer has like a job sale, especially this size, like before you have an account.
That is impressive.
But it was just, it seems like a natural direction for me to go at the time. And I did it. The project went great. We had a really good time doing it. And the client was super happy, had a blast. But what I realized at the end of this, and I know that you general contract, and I have so much respect for that, because after one job, I was like, God, I'm worn out. Like,
it's definitely, it's one of those jobs that's like extremely rewarding, but you have to like choose to appreciate the reward, because it's so easy. There's been times where I wanted to quit because of how much it just sucks. But then like you either make it to the next lily pad, or somebody reminds you why you're doing it, or you just like come out of your hole. But everybody I know in this business, at one point or another is like, dude, this sucks. I want to quit. No matter if you're making money or not. I know plenty of people that were making great money. They're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Because it's just like, you're literally just general contracting. You're just kind of setting yourself up to be there for everything that goes wrong. Like that's what your job is, just to solve problems.
That's how it felt. It went smooth as well. Like there were no real issues at all. We got it done pretty quick. It was a fairly involved project. And
what was like the most taxing part of like that whole experience?
Managing the subcontractors was easy, because
you had good guys. Yeah,
we had good guys. There was no questions about that. I knew if he went out and he bidded it elsewhere, he could probably get it done cheaper, just because of the guys that we were using. I knew that they weren't going to be the least expensive option, but there was value with that. And I'm sure, I know you do higher end stuff, so you probably see that all the time. Like
they're typically, it doesn't always hold true, but they're usually, you find, diamonds in the rough where you can get someone who doesn't realize like how much more they could charge, and you use that to your advantage in business. But when you want people, like after you have a bad experience with a subcontractor, and then you find one that's like not going to give you that same experience, and you have to pay more, then you're like totally willing to do it.
And those less expensive guys that are super talented never last because they either
go out of business or
there's that, or
they get themselves in a jam or something.
They realize their worth and their value goes up to probably fair market value for their work, or
for
they're
sure.
just so busy.
I would definitely agree with that. Usually you don't see someone with like a prolonged value like that.
Yeah,
it's like they're doing a really good job, and then they just one day it clicks. Like, oh, I could charge a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then a little bit turn. Like, what ends up happening with us when we find those little diamonds is they ended up, like, working out really well for, like, 3, 4, maybe more projects.
Yeah.
But then they end up, like, pricing themselves out of the project because their price goes so high where it's like you add a little bit here and there. Yeah. But if, like, we've had bids where you come in and you're like, we just built a house. We just finished a house where you did it for half this. And they're like, well, that. And you're like, all right. Like, we're sorry, but like, you want to do work with them, but it's a weird balance. That's why, like, I appreciated the fact that you recognize that, like, hey, I have this network of people that I kind of know already. So it's not all about money with contracting, especially with subs. Like, you have to build a relationship with a lot of them because if they're good and they're charging, even if they're charging the most money out of anybody, if they're good, they're in high demand still. So then you've got to get on their schedule.
Yep.
And that's not an easy feat either. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. And I went in, with the mindset to that job that, this isn't me just trying to, hustle up, a good payday on this job. It was more of like, this could be, a pivotal career change for me, and I want to take it serious, and I want to build a good reputation. And, all these subcontractors were referred by my dad, and I didn't want to do anything to affect that relationship. So, I was just grateful for the opportunity, grateful the customer, happy because it was a really fun project. It was taking this old, metal smithing barn that hadn't been used for really anything for, I think I looked it up the last time it was actually occupied, and it was the early 1900s, the last time anything happened in that barn.
Damn.
So it's just cool to bring it back to life and give it some kind of purpose, and it's a sweet spot now.
Do you have pictures of that in like your early Instagram?
Yeah, if you
scroll for 7 hours.
Yeah, I started posting reels, so maybe not that far, but you might have to scroll a little bit.
So you made the bar, and the bar was obviously like what started the whole thing. And then like after that like project was over, was it like pretty like seamless?
So actually, if you stop right there, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
It.
But that picture in the middle on the right, that door right there. So this is kind of in the project here. So if you scroll all the way to the right, you'll see what it started as.
Oh, wow.
That was the entry.
And did you make that door?
Yep. We made that out of some cedar. We repurposed the hinges. They were so twisted up, we could only really use 2 of them. You could see on top and bottom, but the middle ones we still put on there, just didn't mount the
bracket.
The frame side. But then we found a local metalsmith that was fantastic, that forged those handles. Really threw that together. That was cool. And then
for saying that was thrown together, that looks really well executed.
Thank you. It was
usually
an early
thrown
project.
together and doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I meant more in the sense of like the metalsmith had his role. I do a little bit of old restoration of hardware. That was me taking the hinges and then building the actual door, and then the glass company coming in and fitting the window there, and it was.
Did you hire any employees at this point, or was it just you managing the guys?
No, I was way too broke for that. Just me. And I had some friends of mine that were, one was a framer and the other one just sort of did whatever, and they helped me do some sanding and just found good people to help me out. But all the woodworking, I did that by myself. So if you exit out of that one and you go to, let's see, scroll down and on the left side there, that's the main bar. We bought that bar out of Philly, and I restored it, mounted that copper footrest on there.
And then built like a platform for it.
Yep. Yeah, we leveled it. Brought that back to life and got that in there. He was from Philly, so he really wanted a piece of like Philadelphia history in there.
That looks really cool.
So we found that. That was awesome. Lot more than I thought to restore it, but it was well worth it. And then we built this whole big cabinetry set behind. We had Bob's Worldwide Stereo come in and mount this insane sound system and TV setup and everything. I mean, they put in this crazy system in that space that still, the whole point was to make this space still look old, but like have performance. So, you know, in some of the other photos you'll see, we had a turntable or a record player, you know, that I built a stand for, and it all kind of hides in, and it had a more rustic case on it, and the subwoofer that powers it below was hidden. So everything in the space was meant to be like really hidden. And
you made all of this stuff specifically for this project.
Yeah, that's the right there is the cabinetry set that I did, and that's solid walnut framed with birch cabinetry, and then live edge walnut.
And did you just leave it like in a natural finish like that?
Yeah, just like a tung oil on it. Yep. And then the holes in the lower cabinet are actually where all the electronics are that power the entire space. That's just for heat transfer.
So this was a little over 2 years ago, or about 2 years ago.
Yeah. They're 72 weeks ago. Yeah. Yep. Damn. So that's how it all started. And then as soon as I finished this project, although I had fun, I realized I don't want a general contract, and I want to make furniture. And so I picked up the guy actually in the photo right to the right of that one. Ryan is his name. He's my still to this day, he's with us, lead woodworker. I mean, he's probably the most talented woodworker I've ever met. And he's got a lot more experience than me, and it's a really cool atmosphere that we've been able to create over there at our shop in Solebury now, because now there's 4 of us, and it's really like just a collection of, you know, I don't even know what we call ourselves. We're not carpenters. We almost identify more as like just artists. Like our slogan is actually, we make art, not furniture, but it's more, you know, taking fundamental.
You guys are like craftsmen.
Yeah,
you're
that's
not
probably
really,
a good term.
Not, or like artisans might be too proper.
Yeah, I mean,
I would think, when I think of like a craftsman, like you're I don't know.
We just have fun with it, you know.
I mean, some of the pieces you put out, that's kind of like what I was going to ask, like why I was asking, like how long or how did this all start? Because some of the pieces you've put out would take an immense amount of skill and knowledge to kind of produce the products you're producing. How soon into Paramount did you start like leaning on other people's expertise, like this other gentleman?
So, well, right away, because I have a no ego rule in my shop. So like, you know, in me, Ryan, anybody else that works, you know, in the shop, there's like, we're all there to learn and get better. And, you know, no matter how many years of experience, no matter, you know, what kind of talent level you have, you come in there, you bring your talent, but you're always open to a discussion. And, you know, so Ryan will ask me questions, I'll ask Ryan questions, we'll all have a roundtable discussion. And when we're designing a piece for someone, you know, the clients, our philosophy when we work with clients is like, let's identify, you know, the dimensions that we're going to be creating. You know, let's just stick with tables, because tables are easy. You know, let's say you want a dining table for 6 people. Okay, well, this is the size that a 6-person dining table is. How wide do you want it? Well, there's a little bit of a range in there. So let's identify like sort of the fixed, you know, elements of it, you know? So like, this is the dimension. You want the base metal or wood? Okay, metal. You want the top, you know, hardwood. You want it with resin. You want it, you know, what are you looking for? And what's the style that you want to go for? Do you want it to be more like a farm table? Do you want it to be a really ultra modern resin table? You know, so let's identify a few things, you know, let's make sure we keep budget in mind, and then, you know, species of wood or a color of wood. If you don't know the wood species, a lot of our clients, you know, aren't going to know what a lot of wood species are that they have to choose from. And then we really ask our clients to just sort of trust us. And if you hate it, we won't charge you, but we promise you won't hate it. And that's really how we've tried to build our relationship with our customers. And it's been great. We've never had to, you know, not take payment, and it's been fun. I started dabbling with resin right away, actually. And it was just something that always interested me. There was a YouTube channel called Black Forest Wood Company that did these resin pieces that I always watched on YouTube, and I was amazed by it. I thought it was the coolest thing. And
yeah, epoxy resin is one of those things that's really awesome to watch, but once you get into it,
it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like our conference room table in the other room is epoxy table, and it was a mistake. And like people are like, "What do you mean it was a mistake?" I was like, "This was supposed to go to a customer, and it just like we weren't happy with it. It's really nice table, but we jumped right in feet first, and we were like, damn, this epoxy stuff is not." We made a couple samples, and then we made the table, and then we had to make a second table. So
expensive mistake, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah.
But it was when everybody sees that stuff, I always tell them, I'm like, dude, like just go in, wade into the water like slowly. You don't want to just like the people that do it well make it look so easy.
I did a lot of research before I ever tried to do it, and I've made mistakes. I got lucky. The first one I did came out like, oh man, it came out good. If you actually go back, it was right next to that photo actually. It's scroll down a little bit. It was right there. Scroll down a little bit farther. You'll see it's like, yeah, that one. So this piece in the right, if you scroll down a little bit more, I think there might be full images of it, but it's man, I think I just got lucky, but that thing came out perfect. And we ended up selling that to a local client. And that was my first attempt. Maybe it was higher. I'm not, honestly, I don't even know my own social media.
You're doing a great job, Gilmer.
But this was our first piece that we did. And it was a desk actually that went into the CEO of Johnson & Johnson's office. And
where did it go? The CEO's office at Johnson?
Yeah, the guy's name is Alex Gorski. He actually lives in Peddler's Village. Very nice family. And they had heard about us through their interior designer. And they asked us to make, I think we did 3 pieces for them. But that was my first attempt at resin. And it's a maple burl with resin, and then the base or the brace for the whole thing, because I was so nervous that I didn't know what the resin was going to do. So I made the solid mahogany brace, so over the years, I don't know why, I just thought, what if it cups, or what if it curves up, or what? I don't know what it'll do.
Yeah.
So I made a brace, a solid mahogany brace on both sides underneath. It looked stunning, and it just keeps everything dead flat. It made me feel better. And then a metal X base underneath that. It came out great. It was slick, and then we had our mistakes after that.
The first one went great. We're like, we got this.
Oh, I went in way too confident to my second or third one after that, and
Yeah, the most difficult one we've done, and I have like all the 4K like iPhone video from the.
There it is.
I don't even know how many attempts this one piece we did. We did a waterfall, so we built the bar out of the walnut and then mitered the walnut.
I love those.
And then built the form for the resin out of like plexiglass and poured the pour, so it was a continuous pour.
Oh, you didn't cut the miter after? And was that the right way to do it? Did it work?
It worked eventually.
Oh, okay.
We had problems.
You were building up to a failure.
Yeah, I mean, we probably lost 4 times the amount of resin on the shop floor than what it actually took to do it, because we kept having all the resins pouring over the edge and sitting on the entire form, and we made it plexiglass so that we could actually see what was the failures and things. And the first couple times it leaked real bad. Then finally we rebuilt the form, got it sealed with marine grade use in water for emergency sealant. And that took another level of finishing when we got down to the finishing phase of the wood. But we were able to pour a continuous pour. So the wood was mitered, but the epoxy was not. So it literally became a structural piece. And that looked amazing.
That's cool.
When it was done, but it wasn't worth the effort that we put into it.
So I think that's a unique new level of anxiety that only people that work with resin can understand. When it starts leaking out, you have
You're just
you have
panicked.
negative time to deal with it, and you're trying to plug it. And I mean, yeah, we've all been there, and it's a very expensive mistake that is compounding every second. You know, good resin's $200 a gallon. I mean, it just flows and flows and flows.
And you're just watching it leak out on the floor, and you're like, what am I ever gonna do? But those big companies like that you see that do it, like Jeff Mack Designs is one that's really big. They have their forms made from silicone, so they don't build forms anymore.
Yeah,
they build your table to fit in one of their hard like plastic forms, so they don't ever have any leaks.
Smart.
And they just clamp everything down. I saw that. I'm like, all right, well, how much are these forms? And I started looking at the forms, and they were thousands of dollars. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, we're going to keep building it out of melamine and having leaks.
But I still do melamine. We just did a conference table. It was our biggest pour yet. It's 3.5 inches thick, 11.5 feet long, and 48 inches wide.
And how much epoxy was that? Like how many gallons do you think?
Like 35 gallons.
Yeah.
And it went perfect, luckily.
And you build it on a strong table, obviously.
So what's funny about that is I mentioned we're under renovation, so we have no space available. Like everything that is in the area where we're in the basement level right now, and we're expanding to the main floor. And so everything that was on the main floor that we were storing there just to get it out of the shop is now in the shop, and we have like no space. So when we went to do this pour, we were out of workbench space to do it in. We have a relatively small resin and finish room where we can keep climate and humidity controlled. And so we were out of workbenches in that space, and all we had was like this floor space that is completely in the way of everything. So what we did was we just jointed up a bunch of 4-foot-long 2x4s, so they were relatively flat, and laid them down every, 8 inches, and just had 11.5 feet of 2x4s, put down MDF, set up the mold, put the wood in, poured the resin.
Right on the floor.
Yeah, essentially.
Basically, like decked up.
The only reason we got it up is because we put fans on it to blow air below and above to get the heat moving, but man, yeah, resin is a stressful world. It's
I'm glad it's like serving in the military, but not as intense.
Not as honorable.
We're resin brothers. Like
resin brothers. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, because everybody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna try that." I'm like, "Please don't ever say that, child." Another question I had for you, because of how old are you?
I'm 28.
28. So like you're young over relativity.
Yeah,
like,
less by the year.
Yeah. You're getting old.
Yeah, I
don't know if you know that. You seem very mature, or like people your age or 2 years ago when you're 26, like don't approach things with such like grace. Like you seem like you approach this whole thing as like, I'm just going to like see where this wave takes me, but I'm still going to be professional and take it as seriously, even if I don't end up doing this. Like, where did that come from?
I think probably a lot of trauma.
Okay.
No, I have no idea, man. I have no idea.
I fucking knew it.
I just try to enjoy the things that, I wake up and do every day. And, I think if you talk to, if my girlfriend was sitting here, she would probably tell you that I don't approach a lot of things with such grace, but,
that's what they're for. You just tell them to be quiet.
Yeah.
Girlfriends. Girlfriend. Always getting in the way of our grace.
Just guys trying to do guy stuff.
Yeah, let me make this resin table and be mad about it when it pours all over the floor.
Yeah. She walked in while I was doing a resin pour, and like it was leaking, and instead of dealing with the leak right away, I just threw the hammer across the wall and like put a hole in the the sheetrock, and she's like, "Now what did that accomplish?" I was like, "That's step one into fixing the problem. Relieve a little stress. Now I'm going to fix the problem. I'll fix that problem later."
That's awesome. What did you do before for like work before you started woodworking?
So at 16, 17, something around that mix. I grew up racing cars, and I did it as a hobby from 5 years old. And at 15, I won this nationwide championship totally by accident. Like genuinely, I was going there just to kind of see how I stacked up. I won. And the award for that was a pro license. And so I got very lucky. And
what class of car, like what were you racing?
Yeah, so that was a go-kart championship, and that got me a signed ride in this series called Volkswagen TDI Cup, which was a Volkswagen manufacturer-hosted, televised professional championship in Volkswagen Jettas. And it was the lamest car in the world, but it was so fun to compete, and it was like my first experience of just sort of pro level racing, and I did horrible in that championship. I mean, I was 15. I was the youngest. The age range was actually 17 to 28, and the only reason they allowed me was because we had to submit and get this special like approval. I was 15, and I mean, I didn't even have my driver's license when I won the championship. And
that's crazy.
Look how well he can drive. He can't even drive on the street.
Yeah, and yeah, so it just was luck, honestly. And I think out of 25, it started at 7,000 drivers competing, and then it went down, and like we did this final competition round of 50, and the top 30 were going to get signed, and the last 5 of that 30, so we're going to be reserve drivers. So the 25 were actively competing, and I finished like 23rd, like I just barely made it. And so we did that year. I learned a lot, and then I just kept on going, racing, and I started competing. I got signed by Porsche.
And this is all domestic in the United States, or is this like overseas?
Mostly. At 18, I want to say, I started doing some competitions in Germany for Porsche, and I went on to work with them between the Audi R8 program and the Porsche GT3 for quite a few years, 5 years maybe. That went really well. Ended up winning 2 different championships nationally with them. And then I got signed by McLaren and drove the 570S GT3, and we won the championship in that. And then I started driving a prototype car, which is like, if you ever watch endurance racing, like 24 Hours Daytona, that's the series that I was competing in, and we won that in a prototype car. So it just was a killer run, 4 years, back to back championships, and in 4 different cars. And after 4 years of the really solid 4 years, I just fell out of love with it. And the big problem for me was I was watching friends of mine I was really close with getting bought out by families that just had a lot of money. And I didn't want to be a victim of that first and foremost. But
that's
I also
like, what's his name in Formula One, the Russian dude?
Oh, Mazepin.
No, the other guy who's
Stroll?
like, who
Lance Stroll. He's
Lance
actually
Stroll?
Canadian.
Oh, really?
His dad paid $83 million his first season so that he could be a Formula One driver because he wasn't qualified. And he said, well, how much is it to run the car for a year?
Yeah.
Jim said,
No, there's like also the Russian guy who can't race this year because they were like embargoed from Formula
I thought
One.
it was Mazepin.
Is that Mazepin?
I'm pretty sure. Nikita,
Nikita.
right?
Yeah. Who's just like, yes, it's not in the cards this year. Yeah. Nikita Mazepin, you're right.
yeah.
This kid.
That wasn't his name. Wasn't Russian enough. I was looking for like a Stolov or something.
Still off.
So you're racing in like the Rolex Cup Series type cars, and dude, what was that like?
It was killer. I mean, it was like the coolest experience of my life.
So you didn't did you get homeschooled and then didn't go to college? Like how'd that?
So I grew up in Percy. I went to Penn Ridge.
Okay.
Graduated in 2012. I finished my schooling there. Never had to go homeschool. Just had really cool teachers, to be honest with you. I was lucky how many of them were really supportive of what I did.
So you would just be like the kid that would show up like sometimes, and then they would just give you assignments and be like, all right, cool. He's racing. He doesn't have to be here. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
because then you still got to do like the whole like school experience.
I did, yeah. And I did a year of college. I went to college up in New York in Poughkeepsie at Marist, and that was a great year. I met some of my best friends that I have today there, and I just after a year, I sort of had to make a decision because I was going to school for psychology, believe it or not. And And I realized that, you know, college, the structure of college probably wasn't for me, because I was a big, like, learn by boots on the ground, like hands-on.
You were a race car driver.
I was a race car driver.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to be hands-on with as much as I could. And that's how I learned how to woodwork. That was how I learned how to drive. That was how I learned how to do everything. And me sitting in a classroom and someone telling me what I should know just didn't stick with me. If I went out and I put my hands on it and I worked on it, I could pick it up quick. I knew that, but
you needed to follow your curiosity.
I also knew, I knew that, you know, if I wanted a potential at this career that I never imagined being on my plate, this was going to be it. And I had to chase it, and I had to take it very seriously. So I stopped everything, and I just was training around the clock, you know, both physically and also, you know, like testing on the track, being in racing simulators, like just really taking it seriously. And it led to some years of success. And then after that last year where I said, listen, like, I'm either going to get a very, very good long-term contract that I can live with, or I'm leaving the sport. And
because you were just like hopping from one thing every year.
Yeah, and that wasn't a bad thing, and that's not necessarily unusual. I just 10 years ago, that wouldn't have mattered. That would have been a good thing. Like, you're in a different car every year. That's awesome. Like, all these teams want you. But now there were so many families, and I think this is true in most sports. Like, you read about, you know, the NCAA with teams being paid off because they're, you know, they want their, you know, kid to play football at UCLA or something. And it was, I think it's a similar situation to where you're watching these ultra wealthy families come in, drop millions of dollars, and I mean, literally putting friends of mine on unemployment because they were, last year they were the champion.
Because their kid wanted to race Porsches.
Yeah. And now he's, you know, he's not driving. He's sitting at home because, you know, some guy wanted to buy out the family, and the teams were entertaining it because they were making a ton of money. So, you know, it was sad. And
so you felt like rather than like have that happen to you, you actively chose like, I'm going to try something new.
Yeah.
It
was a hard decision to make, like leaving it, especially my last year. I was champion, and I was champion in a car that had, it was the first like specific model of that car ever created. So there was no expectations for that car. We were competing against another manufacturer. So it's kind of hard to explain in the prototype world because you're not going to understand the names. It's not like Porsche and Audi and McLaren, but it was the equivalent of like McLaren and Ferrari, you know, and you know, Ferrari had been dominating for all these years, and this new company that nobody had ever heard of came in, and there were no expectations at all. And I said, okay, like let's give it a go. Let's see what we can do. And I knew I had like the best engineers behind me. It was the same engineers that I'd had for years. I took them team to team. They were wizards. They were these Dutch guys that were just unbelievable. And we worked really well together, and we re-engineered the entire car. First, like 4 or 5 races, we just sucked. Like we could barely, I think we didn't even finish 2 of the races. And we ended up getting the car just flying, and we dominated. And then coming out of that year, you know, as such a high, and deciding to, you know, sort of just take a step back and look at other things in my life that I wanted to pursue was tough, because I wanted to keep on racing, of course. Like, it was a killer life, but I didn't really you know, really.
Do you want to let's just fix it?
Falling again, dude. That shit always falls. We need to tape it. We need some duct tape, dude.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it until it was like back in my lap.
Everybody's like, what is that?
Well, you guys are both handy here. Do something.
Yeah, do something. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to talk, actually. I should fix
here to fix the leg. Yeah.
We heard you were a race car driver, and these are race car microphones. So.
Yeah. All right, very cool.
Like, we'll get back to like the woodworking thing, but have you've obviously crashed?
Yeah, I have. It's probably easier to name the bones that I have not broken.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
What's like the fast? Well, like, give us like one. Like, what's your worst wreck scenario? Like, going fast or just wet laps? Like, what?
Oh no, this is easy. I was driving the McLaren, and we were at this track in Alabama called Barber Motorsports Park. It's an IndyCar track, and beautiful, beautiful course. And I was coming around a corner, a banked corner, and it's actually on YouTube somewhere. The suspension failed, and the steering rack snapped. It was like two things failed that were super uncommon all at the same time, and you could just see me take my hands off the wheel, because like the safe thing to do when you're about to hit the wall, you don't want to be touching the wheel. It'll break your wrist. I did that. I broke my wrist. This sucks. And you just hold, and you just like, oh, this is going to suck. And you hit the wall, and I probably hit it going like 120.
Damn.
And the thing is usually you could slow down quite a lot, but I was like sliding over wet grass. So I just smacked the wall. I didn't slow down at all. Yeah, I mean, good luck finding it. I could send it to you guys later. I think it's going to be really hard looking it up. But
you said Alabama?
Yeah.
Dude, you're like double at your...
It might be hard.
All right, let's
McLaren Crash, Alabama.
Yeah.
What's the name of the raceway?
Look up, type in my name, and then type in, just type like Colin Thompson Racing. Maybe that'll pop it up.
If that doesn't work, I'll just...
Scroll down a little bit. Scroll down.
This one?
No, I crashed there. So that's the inside of the P3 car. It's it's crazy.
That's awesome. I guess we'll watch it
yeah,
later.
we'll watch it later.
We'll clip it in.
Damn, look at that guy.
Yeah, throwback. 7 years ago.
Look at that guy.
7 years ago.
Can you sign my helmet?
Yeah, right.
That's awesome, dude. That's dude, I'm happy for you that you had that like just very unique experience. But I guess getting back in like to the woodworking stuff, how do you find clients? Like, how are you cultivating clients for like these one-off pieces of furniture?
Yeah, so I hate sales with a passion. I did car sales for I don't know, a year. I hated it. Anytime I'm trying to sell somebody something, I don't know why. Even if I truly believe the value and everything, I just feel bad like taking someone's money. I don't want to do it. So I'm probably the worst person.
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah,
they're just like the awkwardness around selling. It takes years to get used to that.
Yeah, and I never really, at least I still haven't really seemed to do that. You know, but as far as actually acquiring the clients, I've been very fortunate that, you know, a lot of it actually through motorsports. I just meeting that sort of crowd. They when they heard that's what I was doing, they were jumping over and like wanted to support, and they're very supportive with that. That was really cool.
Well, I guess that speaks a lot to how you behaved, or like how you handled that responsibility in that profession. Because like if you were a stand-up guy in racing and then you go and you start making live edge bedside tables, people are like, oh well, he was good at this, and was like a good, like, speaking of like he was polite or honest or whatever, like he'll probably do this well too.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that translated to some degree. I try to be a decent person as best I can, and I think it was a lot of support from that industry. It's funny, like at the beginning, my parents and my girlfriend's parents were like my best salespeople. They were going out and like they were like hunting down people, and I was like, like we're busy enough. We got one project. Like in the early days, like we got one project on our table. I'm good. I don't need to think about another project. Like I got this one, and and then a week later, I'm done with it. I'm like, I need to do something else. But what I started learning was specifically with the furniture design. If I could connect myself with interior design groups that sort of, not any interior design groups, but interior design groups that meshed with what our vision is. So, one, we do higher end stuff. We're not exactly a very budget place to go shop for furniture. So, finding one that, kind of the first step is just, does the demographic make sense? And then the second step would be, well, does their vision with what they, their style mesh with our style? And our style is a little bit all over the place. We do some historic stuff. We do some, more modern stuff. but it's all very natural. Like we don't ever stray away from the natural lines of the wood. We don't try to make it look too over processed. Like, you know, finding interior designers that sort of match with that design vision, at least that direction, was important for us. And we've been able to identify a few of those groups, and they've been invaluable to setting up, you know, new client relationships. And that's really today.
It's just relationships with designers.
It's all relationships.
Yeah. That's interesting. So basically, would you say a large majority of what you make ends up being like a focal point to what they're designing, or do you create, you know, like what percentage of items are you creating that are like the focal point versus items that are, you know, awesome, but they're a part of like the whole design?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for us to do a project where, you know, we really like do multiple pieces within the same space. I think that has really cool potential to sort of, you know, make you know, a room or a space just super unique. But for the most part, what we've done, I would say pretty 50-50. We've done a lot of pieces that have turned into the focal point, especially when you're dealing with, like, you know, the first thing people think about when they think about custom furniture or especially resin is tables. And I mean, we do all kinds of furniture, but tables are certainly the most common to sell. And just by, you know, just naturally by how a table is and where it is in a space, it becomes the focal point. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you brand your products or leave some sort of signature on them so that, like, someday if you're famous, people can like identify you like George Nakashima?
Man, I hope so. Even a fraction of that, but we brand every piece, and we actually, whoever was the lead on the project will sign it underneath and date it like a piece of art. So yeah, we try to do our part. You know, the branding's fun actually, because it's you know, we take like an old iron sort of brand with, you know, with our logo on it, and like heat it with a torch and like press it in. It's actually pretty cool because
do you use like the electric one that's like a soldering iron, or you just like you torch it?
I don't think the electric ones get hot enough, and also I don't know. I like the effect of the fire on it. Like it gives it much more of a, there's the brand right there. That's one of two that we use, and it just gives it.
It's very subtle.
Yeah, it's very subtle, and we sand it down after we brand it, so it's like, you know, it's. I think it looks pretty clean. Yeah.
You don't want to put too much. You want the piece and like the quality of the work to like speak for itself. That's like the next. That's like the next level I strive for with like homes or renovations, is like eventually to get to the level where people look at a certain home and they're like, "Oh, that's from that company. It has to be."
Yeah.
There's certain architects that I follow that when you see their work out in like a catalog or a book or something, you're like, I know who designed that home, just because like there's like those different subtleties to it. So it's cool to like that's why I was asking, like, do you just kind of like let the product speak for itself, or do you kind of just put your mark on it? I think it's good to put your mark on furniture. Yeah, because it's hard to. I've bought. I like to buy old stuff, and it's always cool to kind of like be able to like figure out who made it or what company this was or whatever it is. Like the most recent thing I bought was like a circular, you know, like a grandfather clock.
Yeah.
So I bought one, but like it's a table. So when I saw it in the antique shop, I was like, I don't think they know what they have here. And I got it for it was like $140, and I was like, would you take 120? And he guys like 130. I'm like, all right. And I didn't have change for that, so he took my 120 anyway. But
nice.
But like I haven't been like, I know the company and the time frame this clock came from, but I haven't been able to find this clock. Like I haven't figured out like what like I can't, like, it's like I don't know how rare this clock is now. Because usually you can kind of like on the internet, so you can find stuff pretty easily, or find something that's similar, and you're like, oh wow, this is a good buy. But this is like the one thing I've ever bought where I'm just like, I have no idea.
Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah, I'm going full blast. You'll see me on there, catch me on there. Like Antiques Roadshow is like the show that you like fall asleep on the couch and you wake up at like 2 a.m. and like you see some lady just trying to like auction off some like crystal doves or something.
Crystal doves.
Yeah.
And next up, Andrew Mann with his circular clock.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find anything about
I
it.
just couldn't find anything about it. Like, I think it's pretty valuable. They're like, do you know what you have here? I just take it and run away.
Yeah, bro.
Just be like, I'm rich. Oh, that's not gonna happen.
It might. I think with branding things for us, it's since we do a variety of different kind of work, like whether it's resin or like on that piece, that's like a very sort of a blended Japanese sort of style entertainment console. So it was much more different than like other stuff we make. So it's a good sort of way to authenticate, at least for us, like to go back and 20 years and look at early pieces. We might not necessarily remember every piece, but
yeah, how many pieces, like it's been 2 years or so, like how much has come out of the shop? Is it like an overwhelming amount,
It's a fair amount.
considering like how little time that is? Because 2 years flies by.
It flies by, and there's some projects that we're working on for 3 months alone, but there's other projects where they might look like they were extremely time consuming, but they weren't. It's funny. It seems like the ones that look like they took no time took a lot of time, and the ones that look super time consuming probably didn't take that much time. And it's like the resin stuff. Anytime we want to do resin, we got to set the mold, we got to do everything, but then we got to pour it, and that resin, we don't demold it for 7 days. So it's sitting there for a week.
It takes up a lot of space. It'll shut down a shop real quick.
Yeah. And it's just sitting there. And then, we do ceramic coating. So that's like another week after finishing. It's just, there's these steps that take a long time. So
you use like a ceramic polish after you do the...
Yeah. So
do you know what company or like product you use?
It's from Black Forest. And they make killer ceramic coating. It's a really expensive process to do, but it's worth it. It's like, because sort of the direction that we've found ourselves falling into, really we've fallen into that this year is specializing in the rarest wood species in the world, sourced ethically. And what I mean by that is it has to fall of natural causes for me to buy it. And if it falls of natural causes and it's a wood species you've probably never heard of, I've probably never heard of it, I'm going to buy it. And I want it. And we ship it from all over the world.
So is somebody somebody out there that's like aware of your rule set is just like going around
dealer?
I got a wood dealer.
Going around like pushing trees over.
Yeah.
Be like, this one looks like it's going to go down in 2 weeks, Colin. What do you say? Yeah. You want to buy this bad boy? It's going down.
That shit's crazy.
Yeah.
So like basically,
I got a few wood plugs. Yeah.
Yeah, a few plugs.
Yeah.
Could you imagine introducing yourself as like, yeah, dude, what do you? I'm a salesman. Be like, what do you sell? Be like, exotic wood.
There you go.
That falls naturally.
Exotic trees.
People like, could you imagine like it's like I envision the dude who had like that tiger ranch or whatever, just like going around the world looking like the dude from the Tiger Ranch
Tiger King?
mixed with Dog the Bounty Hunter. Just like going around and like he gets a call and he's like eating a steak and he just be like, we got a big one.
Yeah.
It's just
in the middle of the woods.
It just fell last night. Bring the helicopter.
Yeah.
Helicopters.
Been camping out waiting for this tree to fall.
That's crazy.
50 miles off the grid.
Could you imagine just sitting there just like, dude, it's going to fall. We're going to be here when it does. Colin needs proof.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah. Like if you don't show Colin the video of the tree falling, like you don't get the tree. No. Like, nah, man, I need video verification.
Yeah.
And a lot of that roots from us just trying to, I'm a pretty green guy, as far as like trying to not leave a negative imprint, at least, through what we do. And we recognize that deforestation's an issue. So like every piece we make, we plant 10 trees, and I think that's a good step, but also we only use wood that, falls of natural causes. So it's not like, anybody, at least if they're trying to sell me wood, they're not incentivized to go, oh, I'm going to go chop down that tree. We have vetted, wholesalers that will sell us material and they carry that same vision. So it makes it easy, and a lot of the wood, actually a shocking amount, comes from this area. And if it doesn't come from this area, most of it comes from either the upper Northwest or the Southeast lake region of Asia. Get a lot of cool wood out of there. A lot of like
that Asian wood, dude.
The Asian wood.
That Asian wood.
We've got it here locally in Bucks County.
That's pretty cool.
What is going on with like the shop? Like, how come you're like, where is the shop? Like, is it somewhere that like we would know where it is?
I think so. So for people that have been in the area for a long time are going to know exactly where it is. Years ago, our building was called the Aquatung Marine. It's an old Yamaha dealer, and they would sell boats there, right across from New Hope Winery.
Yeah.
So that's my building now, and we're renovating the whole thing. We've been there out back, sort of sneaking for 2 years in our little basement shop, and we're out of space. We're growing the team. You know, we're getting bigger and bigger projects, and we just need bigger machinery and bigger space. So we're renovating the whole building, top to bottom. Renovations will go through the end of the year, and then we'll do like sort of a soft open, probably the first couple months of the year, and then we'll have a little more formal, like fun, you know, almost like a party grand opening in the spring.
Are you going to have like retail space?
Yeah, we'll have a little showroom. And then the rest of the building is just creating whatever.
More shop space.
Yeah, a lot of shop space. We'll end up with like 7,500 square feet of shop space after. That'll be good.
So with like your new shop design and layout, is there anything that you did intentionally or equipment that you got or things that you were trying to do with this new renovation?
Well, honestly, the thing I'm most excited for is probably the easiest answer is we got a wide belt sander. And we used to sand every piece by hand from it being flattened to, you know, so like sometimes you have to start as low as 60 grit, but hopefully at least 80 you could start with all the way up. And we sell our resin pieces no less than 400 grit sanded. And sometimes we go up into the thousands, and it's super time consuming. And the biggest problem is, apart from time consumption, you're not gaining anything by hand. You're actually hurting yourself, because when you sand something by hand,
it's not perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a resin piece, which you probably have experienced, this is like, if you're dealing with resin sands completely differently than, especially if you have a softwood like a burl on either side of it. But even if you have a hardwood, it's going to sand totally differently than the resin itself. So, you know, keeping it so you don't have a ridge every time the resin meets the wood is impossible to do by hand. Absolutely impossible. So by bringing in a wide belt sander with something called, like these new time savers have something called a platen on it, which is just basically a metal bar that keeps the thing flat. And it doesn't allow any sort of like shock absorption, which would sort of still sand the resin at a different rate than the wood. So it sands it dead flat, and then we still do the finish sanding by hand. So
How wide is that sander?
53 inches.
Okay, would it have been easier to get like a CNC table?
Would have been a lot more money.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And the CNC tables are really good for flattening, but not so good for like I've never seen someone have a sander set up on a CNC table.
Yeah, neither have I. I was more so saying from like a flattening thing, and then maybe taking a little bit of burden off like the sanding, but you would still have to sand because you would have all those like machine, like even the fine machine edges from like the CNC going back and forth.
Exactly. Yeah. Even in the wide belt sander on really high grits, like high grits in comparison for wide belt sanders would be like 180 grit. That's like the highest it'll go. And you still get like straight lines from because it's just a long sheet of paper. You know, I mean, you know, this is like long sheet of paper, and it's just grains of, you know, well, it depends what it's made out of, but aluminum or walnut shells or you know, sand or whatever glass they use to as the abrasive, and it just leaves marks. So no matter how fine it is, it's still going to leave some degree of marks that you have to hand sand out. So if we can sand it up to 150, 180 grit, then you're sort of past the point where your human error would really be making those mistakes where you get those ridges or it ends up looking like an ocean. So you get past that part where, you know, there could be human error, and then you just, you know, really work on perfecting it by hand. And I think that's the right process.
My last question is like, do you have like an online store, or do you sell anything on Etsy or any platform like that?
Yeah, so it's probably a bad time for me to do a podcast, but we have nothing open right now. So our showroom's not open.
But it's on the internet forever.
Yeah, you can see us on Etsy. You can see us on Instagram. You can see us on our website. We're introducing an online store early next year on our website. Our Instagram store will be available as well. Our Etsy store will be back live after the end of the year, and then we'll have a showroom. So all that is coming.
That's awesome. We'll have to have you back. You have only 5-star reviews on Etsy, which is important.
Yeah.
How many? 94 sales on Etsy.
Yeah, we did a little test last year on Etsy where we just made sort of random things just to see what people liked. And we used, what's cool about like Etsy and some of our other like online shops is we sell items that are made at the same quality as our expensive, sort of bigger items. But we take the scraps from these projects and we use them to make these projects. So the overhead's much lower. We can sell them at a much more reasonable cost, and it keeps us from throwing away things. It's really cool. So we'll have all that stuff back live on the it'll be on the website, it'll be on Etsy, it'll be on Instagram, and it'll be on in the showroom as well.
In the new year.
Dude,
this was a good episode.
Fire. Yeah. Learned a lot about this guy.
Yeah.
Does a lot of different
this was
things.
awesome. So cool that you guys are right here.
Yeah, dude, we'll have to have you back once you're
anytime.
and it sounds like we have like mutual friends and stuff, so I'm pretty sure
We'll have to bring Dale on next time.
we're gonna hang out. Yeah,
we've been trying.
I've been low key trying to get Dale on, but
Talk about his coffee shop, talk about us.
when I thought about asking, I've never formally asked Dale. One.
I did.
You did? Okay. Well, so
But
then I have formally asked Dale through my.
It was a bad time because he was having his kids. So.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think
like,
now we should.
The thing with Dale was I went to his coffee shop, found the I think I was the first. I was the pioneer. I heard about the coffee shop. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go try this place. So I went up there one day. I ended up coming out there with like a muffin, some candy cake thing, a cactus in a vial, coffee, and like a breakfast sandwich. And I was like, this place is insane. And then our friend Tyler and Gilmar and I went there like maybe a week after that. And I noticed Dale a couple of times. And I'm like, dude, I know this guy from somewhere. And I had met Dale when I lived in the city. So
When he was a bartender.
when he was a bartender. Yeah. So I had a friend that I hadn't talked to in a while, like, text me, and she was like, oh, like, you remember Dale from the city? Like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, he opened a coffee shop, like, right near your office. Like, you should go check it out. And I was like, is it Amsterdam Coffee House or whatever? And she's like, yeah, that's it. I'm like, dude, I've been going there. I'm a veteran now.
How good are those muffins? And they're vegan.
Everything in
Crazy.
there, you
Everything's
come
good.
like he has a good product there.
Yeah.
It's an awkward location, which I think is like been a challenge perhaps for him. He could speak more to that than I can, but it's such a unique place that I think over time, like, the reputation of Amsterdam will just like take a firmer grasp on the local community, because it's in a great place, but it's also like not a great place.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's easy to drive by without noticing it because it's so far.
Like you're going around
back.
the curve this way. If you're going north,
Yeah,
you don't really see it's there if you're not, like, because nobody's paying
Yeah.
attention anymore.
I agree.
Who does that? And then if like you're coming the other way, it's just kind of once you know it's there, it's like so convenient. But it's really finding out that it's there. But the place has so many cool, like the table's really cool. Just the bonsai trees are really cool.
It's the only coffee shop you can go to where you can get, like 10 out of 10 coffee and a vegan muffin and a bonsai tree and a CBD joint.
Yeah.
And get anything.
It's got like it's got a whole unique vibe that just, I think, I've never heard anybody say anything bad about it. It's always like over the top good. People don't really say like, oh yeah, it was a cool place. Like, everybody's like, wow, that place was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's kind of now that like he's had some time there and success, like, I'm glad that it's like a hidden gem.
Yeah.
Because like that way, not every peasant can get there. It's like you get to some of these coffee shops. You know what I'm talking about. You go into some of these coffee shops and it literally turns into like an Instagram photo shoot, and you get people coming in by droves just to like be a part of the hype. Like, he has a great product. It's a cool place, but like only real people know about it.
Yeah, it's low key.
Yeah, only the real ones.
And when we first moved into that shop, I was still living in Doylestown, and I would drive by it every day. So I think I must have stopped in there one of the first days they opened, if not the first one. And now if you go in there, I mean, for the first 6 months, I mean, I would go in there and like boom, in, out, like I'm the only person, no problem. Yeah. Now there's always other people in there every time.
That's good for him.
I'm super happy for him. He's I think right now it's at that point where, you know, he's consistently busy, but it's not like everybody doesn't know about it yet. So, but I think it will be. I think it'll be super, super busy.
Yeah, I definitely think there's going to reach a point for him where everyone is going to know about that place. Yeah. And I'm glad we got to appreciate it before it was like lines around the block.
I told him that. I was like, dude, you know, let's bring all this traffic over to my shop. We'll put a little coffee food truck out front.
Oh, that's so cool.
Dude, that would kill it.
Yeah.
That would kill it. I feel like, were you around when we were trying to buy that firehouse?
No, but I remember you told me about
so,
it. Yeah.
like, I used to not really be into that much of coffee. And then we got a fancy coffee machine in my house, and my wife makes like the best coffee besides Dale. And the whole reason we got the coffee machine was because we were searching for property for a shop or something. We were just like, we were looking for something to do. Yeah. And we found this firehouse for sale in New Hope, like above on River Road, just above New Hope. It's like got green trim on it. It's like a white building. You've probably driven past there a bunch of times. It's like right below Finkel's.
Oh, like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, on that side of the river.
It's on the PA side, but it's like if you go where Finkel's, and you come across Lambertville Bridge, you come into New Hope, and you make. I probably just fucked up the directions. Anyway, it's north on River Bridge. There's a bunch of bridges and the river's right there. You'll figure it out.
I'll pass it one of these days.
So it was an old firehouse, and we were like, what could we do with this besides just put our shop and like run the construction company out of here? Because we were going to do like WeWork type thing on the top stairs or like second floor, which was like a gymnasium. That had a lot of potential. But on the first floor, it had these bay garages. And I was like, what if we put the wood shop in these 3 garages? And then over here in this like random little office thing, we built a coffee shop. So because like so many cyclists and people drive past there every day, I was like, if people had a reason to stop here and saw us making stuff with furniture or like making wood stuff, which we don't really do anymore, like it would be like just a cool place. Yeah. And then because it was so close to the canal and the river, and there was like some questionable septic situation going on there, we didn't end up like buying it. But the people that were selling it, they own an outdoor furniture company that's located like in Pipersville. It's something like it's just a huge like international business, and they just had this like random property they were trying to sell. And then we put a bid in. Luckily we didn't get selected, but our bid was better, but they like picked the person they liked better, and like we didn't even meet them. So I was like, my ego was hurt.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, they didn't like me. They didn't like my wood idea. So I definitely think that idea for you to like put like a little coffee, like just do something.
I don't know if the township would even allow it, but I think it'd be cool.
Dude, we just don't even ask them.
Yeah,
power in numbers.
Yeah, just do it. Fuck it.
Just build like an unruly following of Quakers and local townspeople to shut it down.
So at that location where I'm at now, I wasn't even going to put my business out front. I was in the basement for, on purpose. I didn't want like traffic coming in because we don't need, it's not that we don't need it. We didn't, especially in our early days, we didn't want, like any kind of foot traffic because we had enough on our plate, and we were just trying to figure out what we were and what we were doing. And we had the relationships with interior designers that we were selling through them. So we didn't, I think foot traffic at that point would have hurt us. So I wanted to.
It would have been a distraction.
Yeah, it just would have. It would have. I think it would have been too much too soon, and so I was. I submitted plans early on, like probably. I mean, at this point, it's probably over a year ago, and for a time frame, we really started construction on the mid floor like a month ago, and on the main floor there. And what I was trying to do was section off that main floor, because this is like an abandoned building basically.
It's a pretty big building.
It's big. It's really big, and it's 4 stories, believe it or not. And it's like I wanted to section it off into like 3, 4, 5 whatever retail spaces, and just make it like a cool sort of like barn style retail space, higher end, but like, cool. And the township shut it down right away. They said, no, if you want to be there, it has to be one business. And if you ever want to do anything with the residents, which there was like an apartment above it, then the only people that can live there has to be either the owner of the business or the manager of the business. You can't rent it out. And I was going to redo a pole barn out back, and that's where the shop was going to be. And that shut that whole plan down. So now we just took over the whole building.
Because the man said you couldn't do it.
The man said I couldn't do what I wanted to do on my own property. Yeah, it's crazy how like, if you're not trying to change the use of a building, how it can still be like totally shut down. Like it was a retail space. I want to make it a retail space.
Yeah, and the weird thing about like zoning and those rules is like it's very seldom you find someone that's like willing to interpret the rules like loosely. It's like people typically are like, nope, this is what it's zoned as. No, you can't do that. But in other states like Texas or a few other states where I know builders, like you can do whatever you want. Yeah. Like I'll tell them stories about like projects that we've worked on, and they're like, what, they told you what? We would have just done it. Like, and nobody would have said anything to us. And I'm like,
that'd be sweet.
That would be sweet. But we don't live there. We live in historic Bucks County where everything's protected and the deer have more rights than we do. But it is what it is. Dude, I'm super pumped you came on here. This was definitely a great time. Yeah,
it was incredible. Really, really cool.
So people can find you on Instagram, I guess?
Yeah, at Paramount Wood Co on Instagram. That's probably where we're the most active on a day-to-day basis. On our website, we post pretty often. About to revamp that, ParamountWoodCo.com. Or just swing by in the spring.
I guess I have one last question.
Over there.
I did it again. Why Paramount Wood Company, like woodworking? Or Paramount Wood Co?
People with a lot more marketing vision than me came up with that. I hired a friend of a friend, really, that he's from London. He redid a friend of mine's business, the visuals for that, and he really took over all that. I am useless with social media, and like just having the sort of vision. There he is, Marcus. He's the man. He's been really involved, and he's sort of the head of how everything looks online and how the storefront and all that's gonna look.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's the man with that. So he came out with Paramount, best of the best.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Find Colin online. Subscribe to this show, or leave us a comment. That'd be cool. We get some comments out there.
Yeah, say hi.
Just say hi. Tell Gilmar how good he looks.
Tell me your favorite number.
Yeah. Gilmar wants to know what your favorite number is.
I like 17. I don't know about y'all.
Bro, don't even dare 17. I hate 17.
Stop fucking playing.
That's your least favorite number.
That's my least favorite
number. That's bullshit. Out of all the numbers.
Out of all the numbers,
there's
that's my
infinity
least,
numbers. And
that's my
like
least favorite
17.
number.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's like, dude, there's a lot of reasons to have beef with 17.
All right, fine. What's your favorite number? Don't say 11.
Dude, I would never say 11.
All right, that's what I thought.
I'm definitely like today. I'm feeling number 8.
What about you?
I'm a 14 kind of guy.
14
okay, see, like that's reasonable, dude. It's divisible by 7. It's an even number.
10 and 7, the two best numbers. Put them together, you get 17.
Which is a prime number. Like it's a joke of a number.
No, it's not. It's the perfect number.
Okay, what's 17 plus 17?
34.
All right, you're okay. You're doing better.
He's sharp. He's sharp.
Bro, I was math champ.
Dude, I was trying to catch him slipping, dude. I'll leave it on a story today. Today we had to experience someone who couldn't count higher than 20 today.
That's
at
great.
the Doylestown Electrical Supply.
Oh,
I got and they're electricians.
20. I got this guy's something. I don't think he's an electrician. I got 26 sticks of 2-inch conduit, 26 sticks of 1-inch conduit. He said, "Oh, there's just enough 1-inch conduit." I'm like, "Okay." So I got the 1-inch conduit. There literally was 26 pieces. I got 2-inch. I used all their 2-inch so they'd get more. The guy comes out and he's like, "You used all the 26 or the 1-inch? That doesn't seem right." He comes to my truck, counts the 26 sticks of 1-inch. I was like, "Yeah, you said I like whatever." And he's like, "Oh no." He came back out again. He's like, let me just double check. I don't want to get in trouble. I'm like, bro, it's 26. They're in bundles of 5, and there's an extra one. Like, let's get. Let's go. I have a lot of sympathy for you, but now I'm worried. So,
Jeez.
Watch out for those 17 guys.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Hit us with a comment. Tell Gemma your favorite number. We appreciate you, and thanks for listening.